Hey everyone, it's your Congresswoman LaMonica McIver representing New Jersey's 10th Congressional District. I am literally on my way right now to Delaney Hall to conduct an oversight visit here at this detention center. We've been seeing on the news all of the lack of transparency and chaos that has been coming out of this facility. They have, neglected to let city officials in, to let the mayor in. Code enforcement to fire inspectors have been denied access to this building. And as your congressional member, it is my duty to conduct an oversight visit to see what is happening inside this facility. So I'm taking you on the journey with me. Stay tuned.
Just got word that LaMonica McIver, a hard-working member of Congress, has been criminally charged by this corrupt Trump administration. What the F is wrong with you? Congresswoman McIver didn't commit any crime. Clear to me that she was there doing her best to try to protect Congresswoman Bonnie Watson Coleman, who's an 80-year-old cancer survivor. LaMonica and two other members of Congress were there conducting a constitutionally protected oversight visit. The charge against LaMonica McIver needs to be dropped. It needs to be dropped immediately. And we're going to make sure that every single person responsible for this corrupt abuse of power and egregious overreach is held accountable. Just got word that LaMonica McIver.
Good morning and welcome to another edition of Let It Be Known, your Black Press's morning show. And I am your host, Stacey Brown.
And peace and love. Good morning, everybody. I'm your co-pilot, Niel, and we have a lot of headlines that are impacting and uplifting the Black experience, but there's a lot that is impacting us from Capitol Hill all across this country. And so you just saw right there, the charges have been filed against one of our congressional Black Congress members, Representative McIver. Stacey, that is scaring a lot of the activists across the country and lawmakers that are standing up against this Trump Klan administration.
I don't know why it's now scaring them. If they're now just getting scared, they should have been scared last November. They should have been scared last year before. They knew this was coming. Not that it's right, because it's absolutely horrendous. And, I am not one. I don't use curse language and foul language and stuff like that. But Jeffries, give me a break. He goes, "What's the F?" Just say it. This going low when they go high stuff. Come on. Y'all know that then burned down with the plantation. So, you either come strong or stay at home, Hakeem. I like you, but you continue to show weakness. Even how you worded, how you stood there and said you had every opportunity to just lay in. I mean, I figure you feel like you laid in on them, but when you said F, you might as well have just said the word. Come on. People want to hear realness now.
Well, I felt realness from that speech that he said on his steps. I saw Angela Rye. A lot of people are speaking up, and I think that's the most important thing is that this is getting real scary and it's getting closer and closer to home. It's one thing to send threats like they did to Jasmine Crockett, but now to send to press charges, and then what are you going to do next? Go to her office and arrest her? I mean, that's basically what's going to happen.
That's what's going to happen.
This sends a strong message to where if you speak against the Trump administration, if you try to go against any of his legal activity for you.
Yeah, and here's another point of this too. We talk about, and I've, really getting tough or feel like I'm tough on Hakeem. Like I said, I like Hakeem a lot, but I'm, you got to call it the way it is. But I think RNG really makes a great point. His entire comment, but I really honed in on the last part of his comment, but he says, "Miss me with the immigration nonsense. Trump is trying to provoke Black people and some are falling for it." This is the point that I really touched the nerve because he's right, 1000% right. We are the Hispanic and Latino politicians. We keep talking about the Congressional Black Caucus. Where is the Hispanic caucus?
I mean, I think that's a orangey. So right. We keep talking about our Congressional Black Caucus members, but at the end of the day, whether they're speaking mild, whether they're speaking strong, they're speaking up. And to the point, where are the Latinos, the Asians, and some of the allies that are white folks? Where are all of them at? Why is the onus always on us to be the strong voice, to be the morality of this country? Black men, Black women, why are we the only ones that have to be the poster child?
Yeah, why we have to be the ones who stand up. I mean, come on, this is all supposedly all about immigration, right? So where are you, Hispanic caucus and even the Asian caucus? Give me a break. But Nancy Wall says, who are these ICE agents? Where are their badges? Who stand for us? And that reminds. Last night I watched an episode, and I think it's the last episode of FBI Most Wanted on Paramount. And it was about these ICE agents. They were fake ICE agents, and you don't know who's fake anymore. Anybody, because he's deputizing everybody, and they're running into these churches and stuff, and they're snatching immigrants, legal or not, like we see today. Art imitates life, life imitates art, however you want to look at it. And the thing about it was when they finally caught up with the ringleader and they arrested him, it was killing them. They was taking their organs, harvesting their organs.
Oh, wow.
And the guy said, why are you doing this to these people? What did they do to you? Well, they're illegals. And the officer said, the FBI guy said, they're not illegals. And if they were, they're humans. He says, they don't have any rights. We shouldn't feel anything for them. Whatever happens to them happens. And that's exactly what these people today, this administration, that's how they viewing them. They mean nothing. You could do whatever you want to them.
Yeah, it's just, you don't know who, like you said, to your point, a lot of these people with these masks on their faces could be January 6th insurrectionists. I call them rioters. Insurrectionists is too nice of a word for them. It's too proper of a word. They are degenerates. They are rioters. And the Trump administration is definitely cozying up to and honoring and paying homage and appreciating what the January 6th rioters did. And I think that's another issue that needs to be talked about a lot. How he is protecting them, how he is providing jobs for them, and how there's this, like, just like the KKK had the underground and they were doing it's the same type of situation. And that's a whole nother conversation that we're not talking about. So I think that we brought up some key points this morning. Orange G bringing up, instead of us always attacking our own, because whether we're doing it the way some people like it, some people don't, at least we're speaking up. What we're not seeing is the Hispanic caucus, the Asian caucus. We taking your talking point, Orange G. We're taking it because that is a critical point. Where's everybody else at?
It's very, very critical, right? Exactly. And I'm with Mike V as well. He says the term BIPOC should be decommissioned at this point. I'm with you. Totally with you.
Black folks. That's it, and that's all.
Right. No more people of color. No more this and that. No more BIPOC. I'm with you on that. Folks, and some really in other news, there's all the news. Not all of it is important, but in important news, a powerful tornado tore through St. Louis over the weekend, leaving a trail of destruction 8 miles long and killing at least 5 people in St. Louis County. Dozens more were injured, and the number is expected to rise. Now, here's the problem. This is why this rises to the level of we should talk about it a little bit. Despite the severity that Mayor Kara Spencer said that FEMA has yet, now this is Tuesday, this happened on Friday, FEMA has yet to respond, provide any assistance, even as local and state agencies are fully engaged in recovery efforts, I should say. The mayor stressed that St. Louis, especially neglected areas like North St. Louis, the heavily Black St. Louis, cannot recover alone and urgently needs federal intervention. The mayor is calling attention to the absence of FEMA on the ground and pointing to Trump's deep cuts to FEMA and the National Weather Service as key reasons for the lack of timely support. Um, so here you have it. This guy has cut FEMA. He's cut FEMA,
Mm-hmm.
and he's also cut the National Weather Service.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have this disaster, and they're not even trying to help St. Louis right now.
Right. And this is not trending. I didn't see this on my news at all. But I think also to your point, it wasn't on the news. I mean, we just didn't know anything about this really. But also, I mean, a month ago, Sarah Huckabee, governor of Arkansas, was asking for support and asking and begging him not to cut that funding. And he did it anyway. And that's supposed to be an ally of his.
Work
He's
for
not
him in the White
listening to-
House.
Right. He's not listening to his allies. He's not listening to his supporters. He's doing whatever he wants. And those idiots, I'm taking the playbook from you, Stacey. Those idiots
I got that from Barrington, by the way.
Are still supporting him. They're still supporting him.
Mhm.
The same people who lost some houses in this situation, they probably would still vote for that man.
Yeah, and Dr. Joni says that they may get there midweek. They may, she says, but she points out that Trump posted 30 plus times over the weekend. Wow, that's all? 30 plus times over the weekend about utter nonsense and going after Beyonce and Bruce and Oprah, but not a word about the victims of this storm. 100%. 100%. And he went in again, by the way, Neil, remember how you pointed out yesterday and showed the caption of him saying that Biden had stage 5. Now he says that it's probably stage 9.
9. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he just
Unbelievable.
He just
Unbelievable.
with this.
Oh my God. Is that on purpose? Oh, is he really that uneducated?
I think it's both.
Okay. Actually his son said something about stage 9. So the whole family is uneducated and everything else. Good Lord.
I mean,
Anyway.
that's like it. And if they are doing it and they know, I mean, that's just disrespect to the medical industry. You know, as a leader of the free world, and you're not even, talking properly about a former president. I mean, this, it was like we were okay for 2 weeks. We were kind of coasting, we were talking about the Diddy trial, and then here we go again. Here we go. Here comes the Klan. Here they come. Hoods on, hoods off. Here they come.
They ever take the hoods off?
Yeah, I mean, we looking at Orange 45. We looking at Stephen Miller. We see him. We see the Project 2025 people running through the White House office. We see him. And then and then you have the ICE people who have the hoods on. They got them on. They got them off.
Austin says the first family of dummies. Speaking of, Donald Trump's administration has agreed. Here's something else, and I think this is about provocation too. But Donald Trump's administration has agreed to pay nearly $5 million to the family of Ashley Babbitt, a Trump supporter fatally shot by Capitol Police during the January 6th Capitol attack. She's the one who tried to climb through a smashed window near the House chamber when she was shot. She was the only rioter killed by police that day. And the settlement resolves a wrongful death lawsuit filed in 2024 by Babbitt's family, who had been seeking $30 million. Now, the Justice Department under Biden, of course, have fought the lawsuit, but changed its position under Trump. About 1/3 of the money will go to Babbitt's legal team, they said, which is what makes that important. We know the legal team gets money, right, from the settlement, and usually about 1/3 of a settlement of this size. But this legal team is a supporter of who? Donald Trump. Is a right-wing legal group called Judicial Watch. So you see y'all see where we going with this, right?
Right, but last week, remember I reported on him already giving, I think it was like 9 law firms. That's probably one of the law firms that he already said he was going to give money to. So they just got double paid. And what also makes this interesting, you said that the Biden administration fought it. Typically when these types of cases happen, their state, well, I guess DC is
No, this
not a
is a
state.
federal. It was at the Capitol
Yeah, no,
building,
no,
so
I
it's a
get
federal
it.
thing.
Yeah, it's federal. Yeah, but it's just interesting. This is like this rarely happens when something like this happens, and it's
It rarely happens when a criminal who is committing a serious crime,
right.
family sues the police, sues the country.
Right. Usually
How do you?
happens on a state level. Yeah, but this is a federal situation.
So Niel, with that precedent though, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but I got to ask you this: with that precedent, this is somebody who was convicted too, right? With that precedent, anybody you go and rob a store, a bank, or whatever, and you get shot, your family has a right to sue.
Well, that does. I mean, there are a lot of attorneys paying attention probably to that because, like you said, it does set a precedent, and they could cite it in their case. So, I mean, he's off the rails, and the damage that he's doing to this country will take probably 3 presidents to clean up.
12 years, 3 terms at
To
least,
clean
right?
up, really, because think about the thing. Okay, so think about, okay, we're upset about what we know. Think
I
about what
know,
we don't know
right?
that he's done and doing.
Guys, that's scary proposition right there.
You
Um,
don't forget, Ivanka Trump is running through there. Jared Kushner's running through there. His sons, his family. We don't know what they doing, okay? Because they
mm,
tiptoeing.
mm,
And
mm.
remember, Dr. Amos Brown told us when they get quiet, that's when you have to worry. So they real quiet. Them kids is quiet, and we know that they have been taught by their father. We know that Project 2025 is running all up in that office, all doing all types of stuff within our departments. We don't know what's going on with the Department of Education. We already know Kennedy is over there doing some crazy stuff within the health department. What's going on with HUD? It's so much that we don't know. And they got us going crazy about what we do know.
And Kennedy is absolute. Uh, Robert Kennedy is absolutely he is straight flew over the cuckoo's nest. Oh my gosh.
Swimming in slime water. He got
Oh
his
my god.
family in the slime water.
Do you know? I'm gonna tell you something. Greer and I had several, a number of discussions with Robert Kennedy before he got this position. A number of discussions. This
Mhm.
guy is really whacked out. Oh my gosh. She said
Yeah.
cocaine is a hell of a drug. We had, and you could tell, and and I'll credit Greer because she was more in tune with how crazy he was than I was. I
Mhm.
mean, because she was like, I don't know if we should deal with this guy at all. And we never brought him on the show, but she was like, I don't know if we should deal with this guy at all.
Nuts.
'Cause even the people that she talked to, that was representing him, aside from talking to him, she was like,
Mhm.
nah, you know what? We better just stand down on this one.
Pass on that one.
The guy is what Orangey says, 5 cans short of a 6-pack. Oh my gosh. Congressman Al Green has filed articles of impeachment against President Trump. Um, Representative Green has served in the Congress, of course, you guys know, since 2005. And
Mhm.
Trump is the only president who has already been impeached twice by the U.S. House of Representatives. And he told Representative Green told Newsweek that he is moving on impeachment now before, quote, tanks are rolling down the street. The impeachment resolution states that the president is, quote, unfit to represent the American values of decency and morality, respectability and civility, honesty and propriety, reputability and integrity, is unfit to defend the ideals that have made America great. It's funny he used that term in his articles, and is unfit to defend liberty and justice for all as extolled in the Pledge of Allegiance, is unfit to defend. I mean, he went on and on and on and on with the unfit. I guess there's not enough unfits to describe Trump, according to Representative Al Green. But again, I ask, because we talked about this with the other representative the other day,
Right.
or last week anyway. Is there a benefit to doing this right now?
I think it is a benefit because there are a lot of people who want him impeached. So even if it's just the symbolicness of it, once again, we started off the show, whether we like it or not, it is Black legislators, it is Black people who are speaking up and against this Trump administration. Where is the Latino standing next to him? Where is the white ally standing next to him? It's always us out and about. And then we always, we'll have an opinion either way about is this a waste of time? But at least somebody is doing something, and that somebody is a Black person. Always.
But that part for sure. But when you say at least somebody is doing something, I mean, somebody does that. I don't know. I guess you're right. I'll leave it at that.
Because you know why? You know why? There's a saying. There's a saying. Silence is consent.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you say nothing, that means that you're okay with what's going along. Whether you do it the way this person thinks you should do it or the way you're doing it, that person thinks you shouldn't, at least you're doing something and you're speaking out. Silence is consent. And every one of those white elected officials that do nothing and know that he is wrong are consenting to his behavior.
Okay, so that's a good. I'm sorry.
Saying?
That's it. Yeah. So, because I was looking at it like this, and you just made sense. Because I was looking at it like this: if somebody has a GoFundMe and they need $1 million, and I put a penny in, what is that doing? I could have kept that penny.
I'm glad you brought that up because my friend sent me just yesterday a GoFundMe. Somebody that we know, one of his close friends, is suffering through cancer. And somebody just stole his wife's car, and that's how she
Good
gets
Lord.
there to support. Yeah, it's a horrible story. And so he did a GoFundMe page to raise 30,000, where he's already at 15,000. And guess what? It's from $20, $5, $30 donations. So if you got 100 pennies, it's gonna add up to $1. So anything that you contribute adds to the bigger pot. So yes, a penny, if that's all you got, God honors a penny. It's somewhere in the Bible. It's somewhere
You just can't tell me where. You just can't tell me where.
It's in the New Testament about how like he'll take the little and make a lot. Okay, I believe.
And also, I said I had 1 penny, not 100 pennies. Okay, let's get that straight,
I'm
Neil.
just saying, if 100, I'm telling you, I was like $15,000. They raised, and then
good.
I'm going down looking to see, and it's like contributions of $5, $20, $30.
Yeah.
You may have $100 here, but it's all 20 and 5, and all of that adds up to 15,000 and gets them closer to their 30. So yes, any little bit that anybody does, even if Hakeem Jeffries only said F and didn't say the UCK, okay, he did his part because we finished it for him.
That's all you got, Hakeem. You just got one letter.
We finished it for him, okay?
On Wheel of Fortune, don't they give you more than one letter?
And let me tell you something. That video that he made is going viral. So, people need to know what's happening. Think about, we were talking about trauma, in the Diddy case. Let's talk about the trauma that Representative McIver may have to know that there are charges against her, but she don't know when they coming for her. That's trauma. Somebody trying to do the right thing.
Trauma is these last 5 months.
Trauma
defined.
I'm just saying the trauma and think about the trauma that inflicts on other congressional members that are doing something against this Trump administration. That's trauma. Trying to do right by the people, and you have to look over your back left and right because you don't know what this Klan is going to do next.
Yeah, please give our best to your friend. That is such a sad story. I don't even know that little bit, but that little bit is enough.
It's horrific, and it's one of those real stories where this is when you can appreciate GoFundMe. Because
and when you hate people misusing it too.
Right.
Yeah.
God. Oh, and Greer says yes, Jasmine has security now, but that's trauma. You know what I'm saying? Think about Fonnie Willis in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? Think about those poll workers that sued Giuliani and they got money, but they constantly probably are looking over their back because we don't know half the crap that those January 6 people and those Trump clan people are doing to inflict the threats, the terrorist threats that they get. They're not on TV talking about that every day, but it's happening.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, talk to us about infighting at the DNC.
Well, I want to make sure our guest is here first.
Yes, our
Um,
guest. I
our
believe our
guest is
guest
here.
is waiting for you.
Okay. All right. All right. So let's continue this conversation about this infighting at the DNC, which is the Democratic National Committee. Now it's threatening to consume Democratic leadership just as the midterms are starting to kick off. Okay. And we're talking about who's gonna run against who's gonna support who. Now the tension came after a DNC panel moved forward with potentially ousting two elected officials, including gun control activist David Hogg and Pennsylvania State Representative Malcolm Kenyatta. Both of them are vice chairs of the DNC. So joining us now to have this conversation, and I think she is critical to have it, is State Director of Mississippi Southern Poverty of Law Center, and she's a former 2025 candidate for vice chair. Welcome, Waikinya Clanton. Welcome, sis.
Good morning. Good morning. How are y'all?
We are
Good.
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 So glad that you are here. Want to get your take first before we jump into the DNC. Last night, the developments, Representative McIver was charged.
Mhm.
What's your response to what's happening right now?
I think that this is an assault on democracy. Everything that we knew about the rule of law and the respect that we were to have for the rule of law is eroding before our eyes, and it's eroding at the hands of our government, which I think is the most egregious part of it all, right? Everything that we were taught to believe about how great of a country we have is being challenged in this moment, and it's not being challenged just by the government that's waging the assault, but our response to it as a nation. And I think as citizens of this country, we should be taking a more aggressive stand against what we're saying. I think it has to be an outright revolt against what's happening. Too much is just kind of going done and nothing's being done about it. I think some people are moved, but not enough of us because it hasn't hit home yet, but it's on the way. And I think people need to be uniquely aware of that and prepare themselves to push back because it's only going to get worse. I know we're only just a few months into this administration. It feels like we've been in it half a decade already. And I think there's something to be said about that. And it's going to require all of us getting out of our comfort zones around injustice in this country and also understanding that the over reliance on Black people to be the ones out front and on the front lines of this, that time has passed. I think we have shown up way more probably than we should have, and we've often done that alone. And so now we're just passing the mantle for a little while because we recognize too that rest is revolutionary and we need rest for the resistance, and that's what we're going to have to face in just a few months. So I think everything's coming to a head. Some people who voted for this president they're getting a rude awakening, and I think it's long overdue.
Wow. First of all, one of our viewers, David Youngblood, says hello to
Tell
you.
David I say hey. Hey, David.
He says, my friend. So when you talk about rest for the resistance and all this stuff that's going on, you said something really profound. I guess we kind of touched on it about it feels like a half a decade. She said we were talking about these last 5 months, and she says it feels like a half a decade. But when you talk about that, the rest for the resistance, but what do you see tangible that perhaps the Democrats are doing right now?
Well, I have to really give a shout out to local Democrats in Congress. I do think that there are some of us, particularly those in the Black Caucus, that are being very vocal about what's going on to make sure that people are not losing sight of the ball, if you will. But I'm seeing incredible energy from local folks on the ground. I'm seeing training increase amongst Democrats in communities, whether that's organizing or whether that's mobilizing or recruiting new candidates. I think people are connecting the dots between what's happening at the federal level and how that's influencing what's happening in their states. And they're mad about it. And so that's good. That's good for us, right? To be able to harness some of that energy and kind of start stirring the pot towards change. And so I'm very excited about what I'm seeing happening at the local level. And I'm very excited about the new crop of candidates that I believe are going to come up out of this stew. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, so you brought up the new candidates. You ran for vice chair at the top of the year. And so for vice chair, and Kaylin Free is challenging now the two DNC members, vice chairs Kenyatta and David. What are your thoughts on that? As you are a woman, and she's saying that it's not fair because there's no female representation. I know that was something you were pointing out at the top of the year.
Absolutely.
Right. So what are your thoughts on that? Are you with her? What are your thoughts?
I love me some Kaylin Free. And I love me some Kaylin Free because Kaylin was always a firecracker, but she was a fighter from the jump. She's highly intelligent, so she knows those rules inside and out. I think a lot of the women in the race felt disenfranchised through the process. Even from day one coming into the race, it wasn't a fair race to begin with. The rules weren't fair to begin with. Like from the time that you are allowed to get in the race, right, to the time that people are able to change what's happening in the state party. State party elections are still happening in the middle of an election. There was no need to rush the elections for DNC. So our electorate probably changed 4 or 5 times in the middle of the 3-month span that we were running for DNC vice chair. So by the time you make your way through one state, you got to go back because that state just had state elections. There's no calendar for those elections. It really is about, if you know somebody in the state, the people that you know are now that you knew that were on the DNC are no longer on the DNC. So it's a new crop of that. And so that was already convoluted and I believe unfair. Like when you go into when you go to elections in a regular election, there's a cutoff date for registration. Right. And so did you know within a certain amount of time who your electorate is, who you need to be chasing, who you need to be voting, etc. There's no way to stabilize that in the party with the party infrastructure. Those elections happen based off of the state bylaws, right? Those state charters. And so that affects who you are. If you're running for a national office in the DNC, that's going to affect who your electorate is. And so they really structured it to be an inside baseball game. So majority of the people who were elected were either formerly been working at the DNC, right? And I was included in that number, but I had not worked there in a long time. Or they were elected officials, or they were serving the state party leadership. And so they had a disproportionate disadvantage, right, in terms of being able to work the people that they get to see all the time. There's no really set calendar. If you know kind of thing for a lot of that. And so I think it was the scales were already tipped going into it. And then once you get into it, we're in the middle of elections and they changed the rules, right? It was so contentious during that time. And I'm saying this is the first time I really spoken out about this, but in the midst of the election, you changed the rules, right? Because you're so focused on quote unquote inclusion, you forget to include people in the process. So that was one part of that's another problem that we had. But then also the way in which it was done was demeaning, and it really discounted the work that we had almost 20 candidates in our race, people who had raised money to be there, brought staff there, really were fighting for their rightful seat at the table. And so much happened to discount that, to take people away from that. And it left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths around it, right? I had so many people call me when the news first broke. And let me say this, I respect both Malcolm and David as well. I don't agree with David has done, right? I don't agree with that, but I do respect why he feels he needed to do it. I also respect all of my colleagues who were a part of that race. I think we had an incredible crop of people who were running for a position, unpaid position to do free labor in this party, right? And many of us who have often given free labor to this party and to this country, but we still care about it. We still care about what happens on the other side of this thing because we can't afford not to care. And so I think that was part of my motivation in it too. I'm also from the South. I'm from the deep South. Like I'm not from Georgia. Well, Georgia's deep South, but it's like I'm not from the sexy South. Let me say it that way. I'm not from the sexy South, right? I'm from the grit, grinding South, right? I'm from Mississippi. And so for us, we're in a continuous, persistent fight for freedom and liberation in this state, for justice and equality in this state. And so to have, for me, it was important to run for DNC vice chair because those voices were not the ones that you rarely see represented at the table. You always see them go for Florida or Georgia because in their mind, those are swing states, they're higher populations, but we have the largest population per capita that is representative of the Democratic base. We have more Black elected officials in the state of Mississippi than you do in any other state in the country per capita, right? And so I think there's something to be said about our ability to elect Black Democrats up and down the ballot. We have 43% of our population that is Black, but we don't have nearly the level of investment that we need to actually flip the state and make it the place that it could be. But that's because people have written us off. And that's what the party has done overarchingly, right? So you see so much infighting because they're chasing the same fruit off a different tree, right? Like they keep going for the swing state strategy. Almost everyone who is elected in a DNC officer position is from a quote unquote swing state. Because we have not been paying attention, apparently, the other side has figured out that strategy and how to poke holes in that strategy. And instead of us expanding our electorate, expanding our map, we're going off of the same map. We're going to push money into those same states, and we're going to lose again because they've already figured out how to beat us in those states, but they don't know how to beat us down ballot in some of these super red states that we're still winning on, right? And I think we have to think more broadly about what we really want as Democrats. We're so focused on being a big tent party that we forget that even in a tent, you push people to the margins. And that's how we lost these past elections. That's how we're going to continue to not show up how we should in places that we need to be because we are so, I think, narrowly focused on a strategy that has long failed us.
Actually, you're in Mississippi, and with the situation with Chokwe, Lumumba, and the FBI, how does that? And I know he lost re-election in the primary runoff last month, but how does that situation? Because Jackson had been on the national spotlight because of the takeover or attempted takeover, the different court systems, et cetera, and Chokwe was really. He was the symbol for all of that as far as all what was right, all what was good for a long time. And then he gets charged. How does that affect the party nationally when you have he had become such a high profile mayor, when you have a high profile Democrat taking a fall like this? How does that affect the party nationwide?
Well, there are a couple of things I think are there. One, he became a high-profile mayor because of a crisis that we had been long enduring in our country, right? What you're seeing as a result of this charge against him is the type of attacks that are being waged on Black mayors across the country, right? This is an attempt to undermine Black leadership in our country. And I think there's something to be said about that. I think that, he is due process, and we're gonna wait to see that all play out. But I do think it's something to be said about that, right? The state of Mississippi has been denying the capital city of Jackson, its proper due when it comes to budget, when it comes to infrastructure investments. Any money that comes into this state for the city of Jackson, they move it into a regional fund that allows the surrounding majority affluent counties to be able to benefit off of Jackson demographics, but don't invest in Jackson's infrastructure. And so it makes the leadership, and because people don't understand politics, they don't understand government, they don't understand how that money is supposed to come for one reason, and then the state legislature makes a decision and it moves it somewhere else. And so all the counties around the place that's supposed to get the investment, they look to be booming and thriving, and because they have majority white leadership right at the top. And so that is a manipulation of power. And so I think we have to make sure as validators of truth that we tell people that, like, we explain that to folks when it comes down to being civically engaged and involved, that it's not all one thing. It's not, all what the headline says. Sometimes you got to get in the fine print. And if you go back and you look back, at least over the last 5 years, you can see where the budget requests for the city of Jackson have been continuously denied by the state government, and the state leadership has only been giving pennies to service a population of 160,000 plus people. It's the largest city in the state of Mississippi, in the largest county, one of the largest counties in the state of Mississippi, and it's both majority Black. And so we've seen that happen. I think what you're seeing also happen is they want to take over the city. They've been trying it for years. They've been trying it with the airport. They failed. They tried it with the school district. They failed. Now they're trying it with the capital city because, the mayor was able to work to get that huge investment from the Biden administration and EPA to fix the water supply. It's still a couple of $1 billion short, but it's still what we need. It'll get us out of the situation that we're in right now, where people can get clean, reliable water. But that goes to a longer issue. When you talk about what that's doing for the party nationally, I don't know that people have connected the dots because the national party hasn't come in to help or to try to protect these mayors in these cities. And so when you see folks going under attack and our party says nothing, they do nothing, they don't call, they don't try to come down and say, hey, we need to insulate our people who are doing good and trying to do good on behalf of the community, that's the gross failure of our national parties, on not just the DNC, but you got all of them, right? Like you have all of them who have a responsibility to ensure that our leaders have the tools and the resources they need to push back against tyranny, to push back against these assaults on their leadership. And we just don't see that happening because people are focused on a very small pot of people because they're chasing dollars. They're being influenced by donors, and they are not boots on the ground. So they don't know when the demographics shift. They don't know when the landscape suggests something different. And that's why we continuously have to fight on our own to advance issues that are important to us here in the state of Mississippi and in the South in general.
Wow. I mean, you just broke that down and pointing out what's wrong with the DNC. Now, you said on Instagram, thank you, but I will not be running again if the opportunity arises. Now, David Hogg, people are upset with him because he wants to support new challengers for incumbents. Want to get your thought about that. And then you have this Malcolm Kenyatta situation to where he might be ousted by default. I mean, how do you make sense of all of this? And is this important? Should there be a new vote? Should they change what the leadership looks like? And what do you think about the chair? I mean, there's so much going on. You have all of this happening, and then all of the things that you just said about the party, about local politics, how the DNC is not paying attention. Let's just start with David. Let's start with David.
Yeah, sometimes you get what you pay for, right? You wanted an activist, you got one. And the beautiful thing about activism is that it's not influenced by politics, not your personal politics, right? Or I should say preferred politics. It is about a need for change. That's why people activate, because they don't like something and they decide to be a part of the process, right? Instead of sitting on the sidelines complaining about it. I think what David has done is dangerous. I think that it demeans the work, and it also discounts the work and the experience and expertise of people who are currently serving in Congress, right? I don't think this is a numbers game, right? I don't understand why someone would want to primary their own party, right? Especially when you could be primarying vulnerable Republicans, right? Like people who are in these districts that could flip with the right amount of investment and time. If you're here to serve as a member of the party, you take an oath to advance Democrats, right? You're going to elect Democrats up and down the ballot. And where we need resources is in some of these vulnerable Republican districts, right, that are right on the cusp, readily, some of these local candidates that really need someone to see them and invest in them. That would be a smarter choice and use of resources, right? Instead of attacking Democrats in quote unquote safe districts, when we actually need to be doing it in those purple districts, those ones that are right on the cusp for change. And so you're seeing that not happen. Right? You're not seeing that happen from the party, but you're also not seeing it happen from quote unquote allies. And so I think what he's doing is a disservice to the party in general. Look, I'm a Democrat. I am often, but I'm a straight up Democrat. Okay, I'm a Southern Democrat, so we believe in telling it like it is. And I just don't think. I think what he did in running for DNC's vice chair was to be disruptive, and he succeeded in that. Our party now has to contend with what that means for them, because there were things done in that process of electing vice chairs that were set forth by his own state party chair that allowed him to be able to come in without a full and thorough vote from everybody else. Right. So I think that is in and of itself why Florida has so many problems, because they tried to skip the hard work of doing the work of mobilizing and engaging people the way that they should. And so as a result, we have this, right? We have this kind of, and I don't want to say nepotism, but I'll say nepotism for the sake of the conversation happening here, where you let the fox in the hen house. And so now you got to deal with a slaughter.
Wow. Well, I'm sure it's going to be a lot going on there for a while to come. As Patricia Jackson says, sad truth. Some of the white Democrats are focused on getting back their voters. They pretend to love black voters. Do they really?
Can I comment on that?
Mhm.
So this is what the other problem is.
Tell us. That's
So,
why you here.
you know, we keep chasing somebody who don't want us, right? Like, and that's because we've gotten so far away from our values that people can't see themselves in our party anymore. When I was running for vice chair, I got a lot of conversation from people who say they don't see themselves in this quote unquote big tent party. And I was challenged by that, because I agree with them, because I don't see myself in this big tent party outside of being a black woman, right? In face, right? Where are the values of black women? Right? Like the Southern black women like myself, right? Where's the appreciation for the leadership in the work that we provide around the clock? You keep running to the same people and you keep getting the same results, but then you wonder why you're not winning, because everything you're doing is tokenism. It is based on this idea, because we gave you a seat, that you are actually included, but no, you're there for the quota. And I think that is what people are feeling. Like when people talk about their values, they're not talking about what they look like. They're talking about what they believe in their heart, right? They believe how they see the country, right? And how they see their role and their place in it. And when it comes to men in particular, they don't feel included in this party, right? And that was a big conversation for me with a lot of men, particularly black men, but men in general, right? Like this party is it can become so isolating in this pursuit of inclusion. And I think that fails us, right? That really, really fails us. You can't talk about equity and then you switch the goalpost in the middle of the game. And so all of those things I think have compounded to where we keep chasing this shiny object. The data has shown us that this country is going to shift to be majority minority in the next 5 to 7 years. We're not prepared for it as a party. We're not, because we keep trying to chase something that don't want us. If we just focus on the values, on things that people care about, right? The fact that their Medicaid is being taken away, that education is being eroded, that we're becoming day by day a dumber society, a dumber country, right? Because we are now trying to replace human intellect with artificial intelligence. That to me is an issue that people should be talking about. We keep trying to automate our lives for convenience, but we are moving people out of work, right? Like that's what we are doing as a country. At the same time, when we've dismantled the Department of Education, but no one's talking about that. You want to push entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurs have to know how to read and write. They have to know how to count. And so if you are not investing in the type of infrastructure that makes us a full, well-rounded society, one that's continuously able to thrive and earn its name as the greatest nation on earth, then what are we really doing? Right. And we keep getting people who don't want to call a thing, but the reality of it is, if we just did the work, and we just really sat down with the people who know these states, who know these communities, who know where the opportunities are, we could really do some real serious work. The other side not only is strategic, but they are deliberate. They get silent and they get strategic. They move the needle where they need to, and they don't start the year of an election or the year before, but they're looking at it decades down the line. They use that census data like they use a compass, right? It guides them and leads them through life. And that's how they've been able to be successful. They also don't try to have this big kind of a full agenda. If you just align on what the everyday needs of people are, irrespective of they're black or white or brown or yellow, then you would probably see more people feel connected to this party again. But we're so busy trying to be known as the party of democracy that we forgot to be the party of the people. Right? Because we don't really believe democracy. Because if we did, we wouldn't be talking about how we got to redo an election, right? Because we would have made sure that it was free and fair and accessible to all from the beginning, that the rules were the rules from the beginning, not that they could be changed from the floor and then, made to benefit one group over the another. You would not have had a person come in. You could have probably reduced the chances of a person coming in who would essentially upend the party itself, right? So not only do our leaders have to worry about trying to defend us while they're serving in Congress. Now, when it's time for them to go back on the campaign trail, they got to worry about defending themselves against a quote unquote DNC vice chair. That's crazy work. That is crazy work. But that's the work that we've allowed to happen as a party. And then we got to deal with the pendants of that.
Are you sure you don't want to run again if the opportunity
Because what I also realized is that my type of change the party was not ready for, right? Truth to power, strong Black woman who has her own mind, who's not going to go with the status quo, but will go with what works best for the party. I would never go out and run against an incumbent, like run people against an incumbent that was doing their job, right? That was doing the work of the people because they're what? Because they're old? Is that why you run? That's crazy to me. Are they effective? But I also think it's that type of thinking, right, that limits us in our pursuit. I'm not saying people should die in office. I don't believe in that. I think we do have to make sure that we have the proper succession plan in place to move our leadership upward, right? Not outward. And I think that's the difference, is that so many people are focused on the fictitious side of what it means, or the pretentious side of what it means to be a leader, instead of working on what the practical side of leadership look like, right? And that is to really show up and do the work of the American people. That's why we keep failing, because we've been so focused on tweets and TV and text messaging that we forgot to be boots on the ground. We forgot to be in community, embedded, not just in community, but embedded in community. So when something happens, they're not looking for you, but you're there on the front lines. That's why when I was running, I was like leading from the front lines, because I believe in embedding yourself in the infrastructure, embedding yourself in the community, in the culture for the people around you. And if that's not your approach in this age of Trump, you're going to be left behind. Right? People are anxious. They need people who they can connect to and do work with. They're ready to go, but we're not in position because we're too busy in DC fighting about something that we shouldn't even be fighting about to begin with. In my opinion, everybody who ran for DNC vice chair should have gotten an appointment to the party, so whether it was on an at-large base or whether it was an associate chair. But you pick and choose people to be your associate chair based off your own politics, but you're failing the people and the party when you do that, because obviously there are people who know things that you don't know. So what I decided to do is I'm gonna get granular, right? I'm gonna continue to focus on building power and infrastructure in my state, so that when we flip this thing without the party, then they'll know what it really takes to win.
I love that. And we would love to have you back as we continue, because I think what you're doing is you're educating us on the process of how the DNC actually works. And a lot of people call themselves Democrats, but they have no idea how it works. I mean, you broke down how the running, you have to go to each state, and then each state has its own agenda, which it might not be on the same path as you as a candidate running for the entire party. So I think there's so many nuances that people don't understand. So we would love to have you back as we find out, will Kenyatta keep his position? Will David keep his position? Will the DNC explode before the midterms? I think you have the insight that we need in layman's terms that people can understand. And like you say, boots on the ground can resonate with you. So thank you for joining us today. We love it.
Thanks so much. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow. I think she really resonated with everyone. I'm looking at the chat. I'm seeing Greer over there taking communion and all that while she's talking. What's going on
I
with
mean,
that?
it's a lot to chew on. Like, her talking about running for vice chair, and I remember she reached out to me when she was running, and she had to talk to the people, the club in California. She has to go all up and down the state, all of the Democratic Party of California, and get those votes. And then you have to go back over maybe to Nevada, where the process is totally different or on a different time frame. And so there's so many things to break down. So we definitely have to have her come back, because who knows what's going to happen with the DNC right now, because it's a lot of infighting and a lot of unhappy people.
Yeah, I
Um,
see. What Greer says, and I agree that she should be invited to our national convention in Savannah.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I'll give you the contact. Let's get her there. Let's get her there. And
Yeah.
she
Get
was
her done.
also she's also the executive director of the Southern Poverty of Law Center of Mississippi, and she was one of the ones that was very instrumental when that water crisis broke out. She was boots on the ground. She was making sure that the Black community had water, and she was lobbying up and down the state to make sure that they had the resources that they needed. And so she's definitely one that probably should have been a vice chair. But her community needs her more, and I'm glad that she's staying focused on that. But we'll have her back. We'll have her back. We have
Yeah,
we have stuff. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, David said that's his girl, and Orange G says listen to her is refreshing, but her not running again is disappointing. We need people like her, and I am not a Democrat. I am an independent, and I don't vote any Republican. And David says she's always boots on the ground. Uh-oh.
Remember, I told you about the Black Millennial Convention, West Bellamy. We've had Breon, Waikinya. She's from that group too. I mean, these are the individuals that started out maybe 5 years ago, and they are doing some amazing work. And that is the hope that we need in this country. Boots on the ground. That's why
All
everybody
right.
got their fans. That's why everybody got their fans. Boots on the
Oh
ground.
Lord.
Right. We have a few more headlines and trending topics to get to. The Diddy trial continued yesterday, and it will so today, with multiple testimony corroborating abuse against Cassie. But Diddy is not on trial for domestic violence. He's on trial for racketeering and human trafficking. So unless the prosecutor can begin to prove its case, they may be in trouble, Stacey.
Yeah, and it's still early in that trial, and they expect the prosecution's cases, from the last I understood, was expected to last at least 3 weeks, and
Ooh,
so we only really
on the
this is the
second week.
second week, so but you're right. I'm seeing even those who are making it very obvious in their reporting, and even the influencers who, for lack of a better term, hates Diddy, are saying, um, as of right now, they don't necessarily see a conviction, because they only see it is something he's not charged with, which, as you said, domestic violence. It seems like they have been building toward at least him being this enslaver, if you will, somebody who had Cassie, as the witness yesterday testified, the personal assistant, that, well, Cassie said she couldn't leave because if she left, I wouldn't have a car. He would take my apartment, my car, and something else that he would take, and she would never get a record done. So they're trying to show that I guess they're hoping that the jury sees this as somebody who was involved in, I guess, trafficking, but you're still not showing
Mhm.
trafficking. And I'm talking about not from a layman's standpoint or even a journalistic standpoint, from a journalistic viewpoint, but you're not showing it from a legal standpoint. And that's the thing I always say about court. They always say that everything is, you have to go by the law. And right now, the law says that reasonable doubt on what? He's not being charged with domestic violence. He's being charged with those other charges. And you have not shown those other charges yet. It's all been about one person,
Right. Yeah. So they have a lot of work to do. And you said it's 3 weeks, so they have a week and a half left
at
to prove
least,
their
right?
case.
Yeah.
All right, and more news. You brought this up a little earlier, but Trump wants to investigate Beyonce, Oprah, and Bruce Springsteen for their
Yeah.
role in Kamala Harris's 2024 presidential campaign. Um, I hate to say it, but the dummy is questioning if they were more than just entertainers on the trail, and instead potential illegal endorsers. So is Kid Rock a potential illegal endorser?
Among
You
others,
know,
right? Exactly.
I mean, that's
Um,
because that's the only celebrity I could think of that he was able to pull.
yeah, it was 3 or 4 of the,
I
you
can't
know,
think of the other ones.
yeah, because they like Tom Wopat or whatever the guy is from the Dukes of Hazzard and somebody a couple of others, but the thing about it is once again this is what you do as president. You claim that Biden weaponized the Department of Justice against you, and you are openly calling to weaponize the Department of Justice against celebrities who decided to say, "Hey, I'm choosing her. I'm choosing candidate A. Uh, I like her policies better." And now you're upset, and yeah, you got even more your panties in a bunch when Springsteen sat up there in the in the UK and called you unfit.
Hmm.
That's his opinion. And if you want to shoot back at him, you called him this prune. You said he looks like a prune or something like that, right? Okay, word for word. Uh, But this idea of sicking the Justice Department on him and Beyonce and Oprah is absolutely insane. I don't. No matter how you slice it and couch it, it's insane.
Right. And looks like Trump's nemesis or enemy, Sesame Street, lives to sing another song. They get to sing another
Sunny
song.
days.
Okay, so the children's learning show has found a new home, announcing that all episodes are coming to Netflix,
How'd you get
and
to
along with the
Sesame
library of
Street?
episodes. So they're moving on over to Netflix. The children's platform wrote on their IG page, the support serves as a unique public-private partnership to enable Sesame Street to continue to help children everywhere grow smarter, stronger, and kinder.
Which tells you once again every single thing you need to know about this president. How, Sesame Street is as American as apple pie, as American as baseball. I mean, it's like, and it's also something that kids have forever. Small kids and older kids do look forward to Sesame Street. And
Right,
this
right.
guy is against Sesame Street.
Yeah, well, probably because Sesame Street was originated for black kids, kids of
Right.
color. I learned that in when I watched the Luther Vandross documentary, because he was like
Yeah.
one of the first singers on the show. But it probably stems from that. He doesn't like anything that is going to educate people of color. He wants us to be dumb. Remember, his ancestors didn't want us to read and write. We get
Right. Exactly.
lashes from his ancestors if we knew how to read and write. So, it don't fall far from the tree.
You
But
know,
go ahead.
uh, didn't you just report not long ago that Elmo was looking for a job?
Yeah. Well, hey,
They found it.
he could pull his resume from LinkedIn because they got a new home.
They got a new home. Okay, good for Elmo.
Right. And if you guys don't know, follow Sesame Street on Instagram and Facebook. It will give you life every day. I didn't know how much I needed those puppets. But moving
See,
on. Go
look at
ahead.
that. MB says he learned how to read. MB says I learned how to read with Sesame Street. Look at that.
Mm, you know, so there you have
Wow.
it. Sesame Street lives to sing another song. I thought this was interesting. Zillow,
Hmm.
which is a friend of Black Press USA, they're reporting that renters now need at least 80,000 a year to afford a basic apartment. That's up from 60,000 in 2020. Now, in cities like New York, Boston, LA, and Miami, renters must earn 100,000 plus just to stay below the recommended 30 income to rent ratio, meaning that your rent, when you work every day, 30% of your earnings your gross earnings should go to rent. The other 70 should be how you live. But in
Hmm.
today's time, it's flipped. Your rent
You
is
know, I
probably 80% of what your
mhm.
income, that it takes up your income.
Isn't that something? And they make so your president 45, 47, as they call him, among the things they call him is, he's firing everybody, taking away all the jobs, making sure companies don't hire people, diversity,
Mm-hmm.
and prices are sky high. Now look at this rent. You said they have to earn at least $80,000, and mortgages now, the interest rate is over
No, a
7%.
100,000. A hundred
A
thousand
hundred
now.
thousand. Okay,
Yeah.
and the interest rate for mortgages is over 7%. Where are people going to live? I saw on Zillow just yesterday, um, so many places, like if you look to rent or something like that, they want you. I saw it says you must make at least 95,000. You must make at least 100,000. They're putting this on their listings now.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And they
crazy.
check, and they check too. They check. They want
Yeah,
to
I'm
speak to
pretty
the
sure they would.
employers and all of that. Yeah. Hmm.
Wow.
And
Where,
so
where are people gonna live? Where are they gonna live? In the streets? In their cars? People are living in their vehicles, aren't they?
they are. I mean, Sunday, I went to lunch with my grandmother, and driving down the street, there's so many like campers. Like people are just
I should get
really
a camper.
living. And who you?
Yeah, I should get a camper. That seems to be
Um,
the cheapest way to go nowadays.
but I mean, these are like, I mean, it's not luxury campers. It's not like let's
Right,
take a
right.
trip down the USA highway. I mean, these are just like it's really sad. It's really sad, especially here in LA. It's horrible. The homeless, the unhoused. They say unhoused. We can't say homeless no more. It's unhoused. That's the terminology we're supposed to use now,
Right.
and
It's
they change the
unhoused. Yeah.
terminology so much. But the
All the
unhoused,
time.
it is
Well,
it's something to pray for, but what does they say, faith without works is dead, so we got to do more than pray. We got to pray and we got to work.
well, Greer says those motorhomes, that's her next move. She said that's her next move. And MB says raise the wage. We need a living wage. And that's the other thing. They are not. We just did a story last week that he lowered the wages for government contract workers, those who contract with the government, from $17 to $13. So he's like lowering wages, raising prices, raising rents, raising mortgages. It's crazy.
It is. And you think sometimes like the American dream is to get a home, but now it's like the mortgage company is your renter. Like, so what's the difference between paying rent and a mortgage? Because if you can't afford the upkeep, right? If you can't afford, if your plumbing bust and you got to pay $7,000, if you can't afford the upkeep of the lawn, I mean, and then you got to pay your mortgage and your property taxes. I mean, it's like rent,
Insurance.
mortgage, insurance. I mean, it's all the same. I mean, it's just,
Mm,
how do you live in America with these
yeah.
types of prices?
And see, RNG says his insurance premium, his went up $400.
Mm. And then
As
what
you have
about
no
the
wins.
right? And like you brought up the point, insurance. Like out here, State Farm went up on their rates because of the fires. So now your insurance skyrockets. And then the insurance, like how often do you get into an accident? How often does a fire come and just take out your whole neighborhood? So you
Right.
invest in all this stuff and you might not ever even use it.
Mm-mm.
In the words of Beyonce, America has a problem. And we have a problem. Okay. I'm gonna save this name story because I think we're gonna have some fun with that for tomorrow. But we want to highlight this month marks the fifth anniversary when George Floyd was murdered. And so a lot of people don't know that he was from Houston. And so Houston is set to host an inaugural movement festival Memorial Day weekend honoring the legacy of George Floyd. Now, in honor of the cultural diversity, social justice, and economic advancement, Houston will welcome the event The Movement Festival is a 4-day premium event produced by Kay Davis in the community, and it's May 22nd through 25th. And we'll talk more about it tomorrow, but we're going to continue to uplift the movement of what George Floyd's life meant. His life meant something. And I think that, Black America really stood up and wanted them to know it meant something. So we'll talk more about this and give you more details of all of the more memorials that are happening for the life and for the movement and unfortunately the murder of George Floyd.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's gosh, another year has gone by already. It's amazing.
5 years of
We hoped,
progress and rollback.
yeah, wow. We should bring back tomorrow, by the way, folks. I saw somebody asking about it. The pop quiz, the black pop quiz. We should have one for you tomorrow for sure. For right now though, we're about to revoke somebody's black card. And that
Uh-oh.
is she said, uh-oh. FAMU's interim president Timothy Beard. Florida A&M's interim president Beard is backing the controversial, unethical selection of Marva Johnson as the school's next president. In addition to her allegiance to MAGA and Ron DeSantis, she lacks academic leadership experience, despite concerns over transparency and political interference in the search process. Beard praised the board's decision as forward thinking and pledged to support Johnson in her transition. So why that's a good enough reason to revoke it. But bottom line, while we're revoking it, he can't come to the cookout because when your institution, an HBCU with a legacy rooted in fighting systemic oppression, is on the verge of being co-opted by DeSantis allies and corporate interests, and you still cheerlead for the hand-picked candidate of the anti-black political machine, you've officially lost your invite. He didn't just co-sign the board's betrayal of FAMU's community. He wrapped it in flowery language about, quote, innovation and strategic partnerships, knowing full well that MAGA Marva isn't here for the culture or the students, but for control. And that's why the ribs, the mac and cheese, the red cup, and the folding chairs are totally off limits to Mr. Beard.
Wow.
So there you go.
Yeah, it's scary.
That's
That's scary.
horrible.
Yeah,
Horrible.
right. But like we say, this is the example for other HBCUs that are publicly funded by the state. Um, you're in trouble. You're
Yeah.
in trouble.
Yep.
So
Yeah. This is
alumni, we can't stress it enough. Alumni. We have to take care of our HBCU institutions.
Yep. Exactly. Well, a
Mm.
couple of black facts for you before we get moving here. On this date in 1865, emancipation was proclaimed in Tallahassee, Florida, 11 days after the end of the Civil War and 2 years after the proclamation first issued by President Lincoln freed those enslaved in southern states. For this reason, Emancipation Day is traditionally celebrated on May 20th in the state of Florida.
See, you shouldn't have told me that. I'm celebrating today. I'm not waiting for Juneteenth. I'm not waiting for Juneteenth.
Oh gosh, what you gonna do to celebrate? How you gonna celebrate?
I'm free. I'm able to,
I
write
mean,
my
what you gonna
own.
do in all like for a celebration?
I might, a happy hour sounds fun. Have a little
Happy
happy
hour.
hour,
Oh Lord.
a little celebration, just, reflecting on what my ancestors did. And I'm free today. We live Governor Westmore said it best. He's the type of guy that the glass is always half full. And I thought about yesterday when they were like, they don't understand what Westmore did with the reparations. That lingered with me yesterday. And I was like, you know what Westmore said? He sent that bill back to them legislators and said, bring me a bill where I could write a check. I don't want no. That's
Listen,
basically what he said. Take this bill back. I'm not signing it. Bring me back a bill where I can start writing some checks. I don't
if the
want no
glass
study.
if the glass is always half full, how come my Scotch glass is always half empty?
Because your life is half full and you can have as much scotch as you want. That is a half glass full situation to where your glass is always empty. Do you having some good time, Stacy?
I mean, come on now. I mean, shoot, refill, barkeep, shoot, got some.
All right, I got one. I got a Black History fact today. So on this date in 1954, David A. Patterson, the first African American governor of New York, was born. And this was significant because he was blind, right?
Yeah, he was legally blind. He was almost he wasn't completely blind though. He
Hmm.
could, he could see some things, but I'm not sure to the extent of his blindness. But I know that yes,
Yeah,
legally yes.
yeah.
So, wow. Yep, David Patterson. I remember when he was elected.
Hmm.
Interesting stuff. So, our black-owned newspaper today, we're gonna, in honor of our guest, we're gonna stay there in Mississippi.
All
It's the
right.
Jackson Advocate for Black folks in Mississippi and the broader African American community. The Jackson Advocate is the state's oldest black-owned newspaper that educates, informs, celebrates, and by focusing on issues and achievements that matter most. As the voice of Black Mississippians, the newspaper ensures that stories overlooked by mainstream media are heard and are celebrated. Our Black owned newspaper of the day is the Jackson Advocate. And it's a really, really good. We got two great newspapers in Mississippi and Jackson, and both of them are in Jackson. It's the Mississippi Link, and of course, our newspaper of the day, the Jackson Advocate. And they do a heck of a job down there. So good for them.
And I love that name, Jackson Advocate, because that's one of the things that the Black press does very well. It's news, views, and advocacy. They're not just going to report it, but they're also going to be boots on the ground and they're going to be a resource for their community. That's what the Black press does. So if you want to know what's happening with news, views, and advocacy on a national level, you want to head over to blackpressusa.com. Our banner story today is Keisha Lance Bottom. It enters the Georgia governor's race. She says she's a fighter. Get all the
It's a
details over
fighter.
at blackpressusa.com. Did you write that one, Stacy?
No, that's a April Ryan special.
Okay.
But she's a fighter. She's not a lover.
Well, she's married and has kids, and yeah, I
So
think
she's
you
a
could
lover
do
and a
both.
fighter.
You could do both. Okay, because
Well, I
don't
mean,
forget
listen,
her
Michael
show.
Jackson was only one. He said he was a lover, not a fighter.
Oh.
So
But
I
I know
wanted to
you got some
know.
different stories about that. You told
I
that
want
story. You got a little
listen. I want to know. I want to know if Keisha Lance Bottoms is a lover too. She's
But don't
just a
forget,
fighter.
don't forget the show that she's executive producer on. The Tyler Perry new show starts Thursday. With Terry Vaughn, where Terry Vaughn plays Lieutenant Governor. The name's not coming to mind, but it's a new Netflix Tyler Perry, Keisha Lance Bottom show starts Thursday on Netflix.
All right. Well, check it out, folks, and check us out again tomorrow on Let It Be Known. Thanks for watching.